This terrible story, which took place in 2006, can shock anyone. A young girl from a small, quiet town was found dead in an empty house. From the very beginning, it was clear that there were many strange aspects to the case, but no one expected such a shocking conclusion. In this video, we will tell you what happened to Cassie Stoddart and why this crime remains one of the most horrifying in history to this day. On September 22, 2006, Cassie Jo Stoddart, a high school student in the U.S., was murdered by her classmates Brian Draper and Torey Adamcik in the home of her aunt and uncle in Pocatello, Idaho, USA. Stoddart's body was discovered 2 days later when her relatives returned home from a trip. The perpetrators claimed that they were inspired by the slasher film Scream, earning them the nickname the Scream Killers. Adamcik and Draper recorded documentary-style videos where they expressed their admiration for horror films, especially Scream, and revealed their desire to recreate a similar murder in real life. On the day of Stoddart's murder, they made a death list of other potential victims. On August 31, 2007, both were sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Brian Draper and Torey Adamcik, natives of Idaho, attended Pocatello High School together with Cassie Jo Stoddart. Draper spent most of his childhood in Sandy, Utah, before moving with his family to Pocatello, Idaho. He met Torey Adamcik while they were both in high school. Both boys were interested in filmmaking and began creating their own films. On the night of September 22, 2006, Stoddart was house-sitting for her aunt and uncle, Allison and Frank Contreras, on Whispering Cliffs Drive. The Contreras family was out of town and had hired Stoddart to look after their 3 cats and 2 dogs for the weekend. That evening, Stoddart was visited by her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, who arrived around 6 p.m. Later, classmates Brian Draper and Torey Adamcik, who were both 16 at the time, came over to Cassie's house to hang out. Stoddart gave her friends a tour of the house, including the basement. The 4 teenagers then went to the living room to watch the movie Kill Bill, but Adamcik and Draper left before the movie ended, saying they wanted to see a movie at the local theater instead. Stoddart and Beckham stayed behind. Unbeknownst to Stoddart, before the boys left, Draper unlocked the basement door so that he and Adamcik could return to the house unnoticed. A short time after leaving, Draper and Adamcik returned to the area, parked further down the street, got out of the car, and put on costumes consisting of dark clothing, gloves, and white-painted masks. The boys quietly entered the house through the basement door while the couple was watching TV in the living room. They deliberately made loud noises in an unsuccessful attempt to lure Beckham and Stoddart downstairs to scare them. They then found the circuit breaker and cut off the power in the house, hoping the couple would come down to check the breaker. When Beckham and Stoddart didn't go downstairs, the boys turned the lights back on. Stoddart felt uneasy after the temporary power outage, and Beckham noticed that one of the dogs kept staring down the stairs into the basement, occasionally barking or growling. Seeing that Stoddart was frightened, Beckham called his mother and asked if he could stay with her overnight to comfort her, but she refused his request. Instead, she suggested that Stoddart come home with Beckham and stay the night at their house, and she would take Stoddart back the next morning. However, Stoddart felt it was her responsibility to stay at the house since she had been hired to take care of the animals, and she declined Beckham's mother's offer. At around 10:30 p.m., Beckham's mother picked him up, leaving Stoddart alone in the house. Beckham called Adamcik on his cell phone to find out where he and Draper were, and to possibly meet up with them later. Beckham said that he could barely hear Adamcik, who was whispering something on the phone, and assumed that the boys were at the movie theater. Draper and Adamcik, however, overheard Beckham leaving from the basement. The teenagers once again turned off the lights using the circuit breaker and waited, hoping that Stoddart would come downstairs to turn the lights back on, but she didn't. Eventually, the boys went upstairs. Draper was armed with a dagger-like weapon, while Adamcik had a hunting knife purchased from a pawn shop. Draper opened and slammed the door of a closet at the top of the stairs to frighten Stoddart, who was lying on the couch in the living room. The boys then brutally attacked her, stabbing her about 30 times. During the murder investigation, the police discovered that Draper and Adamcik had recorded their plan to kill Stoddart on videotape while they were at school. This video was shown in court. Draper and Adamcik were arrested on September 27, 2006, and charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. During interrogations, each teenager blamed the other. Draper claimed that he was in the same room as Adamcik when Stoddart was killed, but denied stabbing her, later admitting that he did so supposedly at Adamcik's command. He led investigators to Black Rock Canyon, where the teenagers had partially burned and then buried the clothing, masks, and weapons they used in the murder. It was here that the police found a partially burned Sony VHS tape, which, after restoration, showed recordings of their plans. During the trial, the prosecution stated that Draper mentioned being inspired by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, who carried out the mass shooting at Columbine High School. It was later revealed that Adamcik was inspired by the horror movie franchise Scream. Draper was convicted on April 17, 2007, and Adamcik was convicted on June 8, 2007. On August 21, 2007, based on their convictions for first-degree murder, both were sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, along with an additional 30 years to life for conspiracy to commit murder. Adamcik and Draper are both serving their sentences at the Idaho State Correctional Institution, located in Ada County, Idaho. The defense attorneys for the convicted teenagers filed separate appeals to the Idaho Supreme Court, Adamcik in September 2010 and Draper in April 2011. Draper sought to have his conviction overturned or to receive a reduced life sentence that would allow for the possibility of parole after 30 years if approved. The first appeals for both Adamcik and Draper were denied. However, the higher court overturned Draper's conviction for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, stating that the jury had been given incorrect evidence regarding that charge, but they upheld his first-degree murder conviction and life sentence without parole. In July 2015, Adamcik secured a resentencing hearing before 6th District Judge Mitchell W. Brown. He argued that witness testimonies regarding his character could have changed the outcome of the sentencing, but his former attorney, against his parents' wishes, chose not to call those witnesses. Adamcik claimed that his attorney believed the prosecution would present even more damaging evidence. In March 2016, Judge Brown denied Adamcik's request for a reduced sentence. In 2010, the Stoddart family filed a civil lawsuit against the Pocatello School District, claiming that school authorities had been negligent and should have known that Draper and Adamcik posed a threat to others. However, both the civil court and the Idaho Supreme Court dismissed the case, stating that the killer's actions could not have been foreseen. And that concludes our coverage of this tragic story. If you found this video informative or thought-provoking, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates on cases like these. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to share this video with your friends and give it a thumbs up if you found it valuable. Thank you for watching.